Hello, YouTube. So we've seen Open Betas 3 and 4 released this week to the downloaders for Elite Dangerous. And they primarily just contained bug fixes and things like that. There is, so far, no new content that has been delivered to any of these betas. Of course, they're wanting to hide that behind a curtain and unveil it through a series of probably events. My guess is that the core of 2.4 will be released sometime the middle of September here, with probably the first big story content drop coming the same weekend as Frontier Expo. That's my betting, or I should say that is my bet. And the reason behind that is we have this 3-week long series of community goals that's I believe, player group driven community goal to build stations and mega ships and stuff like that, and to open up more passenger and cargo transportation between, the bubble and Colonia, which may factor into much more of the story narrative in 2.4 and going forward with a probable Thargoid invasion. As part of this continuing open beta, they've solicited player feedback when it comes to Pilots Federation bounties and how they should interact with power play, with basically 3 very confusingly worded options. Option number 1, basically if you attack any other member of a opposing faction or somebody who is not allied with you, you do not get a Players Federation bounty placed on your head. You can only get a Players or a Pilots Federation bounties placed on your head if you attack and kill a player of your same faction. So let's say I'm pledged to Denton Petraeus right now. If I attack and kill another Denton Petraeus player, I would get a Players or a Pilots Federation bounty on my head. Whereas if I attacked and killed somebody pledged to Arissa Lagivny Duval or Aisling Duval or the other person who's under the Empire banner, I would not. Same if I attacked a member of Zachary Hudson or Edward Mahon, I would not get any Pilots Federation bounty placed upon my head. Option number 2 is basically, as far as I can tell, the Pilots Federation bounty system has no interaction with the power play system. Basically, if you attack and kill another commander, you get a bounty placed on your head no matter what powers they happen to be pledged to. Option number 3 is a little bit more complex of an option for number 1. Option 3 is a little bit more complex to where subpowers aligned to a superpower, you would not be allowed, or if you attacked those commanders, you would gain a bounty on your head from the Pilots Federation, but you would be then free to attack commanders who are pledged to anybody outside that superpower. I'm pledged to currently Denton Petraeus for the APAs, and with that, if I attacked a member of who was currently pledged to Arissa Lagivny Duval or Zervamal Tuval, as well as Aisling Duval or another Denton Petraeus player, I would get a Pilots Federation bounty placed on my head for killing them. However, if I attacked another commander of, let's say, Zachary Hudson or Edward Mahon or Felicia Winters or Antel or Yuri Grom or Archon Delaney, well, I would not get a Pilots Federation bounty on my head. From a role-playing gameplay standpoint, 3 probably makes the most sense, with the exception of I don't think anybody really has any idea of who's supposed to be allied with whom in terms of the story with power play, because who's allied with whom as far as the story narrative that's given in the game and how it's actually developed amongst players outside of the game has been entirely different. It's been 2 very different things. So it's one of those things that it probably makes the most sense from a role-playing perspective, but I don't think it lines up necessarily with reality. Again, without players being able to control with whom factions they're allied with this week and next week, in trying to be a somewhat curated story, it just doesn't work. Again, I would be all for power play just frankly being removed with 2.4 and a probable Thargoid invasion and replaced with something in Season 3 that is re-engineered and rebuilt that better serves the purpose. And I've made a couple of proposals on here in previous videos if you care to look those up. Next up is, I've seen quite a few videos over the last week. Obsidian Ant had one, I think Commander Platter had one as well, kind of really hyping up with, oh my gosh, what could all be here in content as far as 2.4 goes. And I can't get too hyped because I'm seeing nothing that's been revealed thus far in the betas that leads me to think that there's going to be any major new mechanics added into the game, any major changes to, say, the background simulation or other dynamics that would be really needed, I think, to create a dramatic and impactful, say, invasion of the Thargoid storyline. And the fact that this will drip out over time, I don't have so much a problem with if it's every couple of weeks. At the same time, I'm left to wonder if the infamous, well, it'll just be a Thargoid conflict zone, or is it going to be more scripted events that are essentially cutscenes? Or is it going to be content that, once discovered by people who have way too much time on their hands using out-of-game tools to analyze sound files and all of this and that, will you just go to YouTube, watch it, and not actually have to do anything in-game? I mean, one of the biggest swings and misses has been the secret messages or codes embedded in sound files with no way to analyze those sound files in the game. It's not like there's a scientific module you can put on that has a waveform analyzer that you could analyze the stuff and gain clues and information from and have puzzles that are solvable from within the game. If they did that, my God, that would actually be in-game playable gameplay content, not just another asset. And my big thing is, it's an asset if you have to go out of the side of the game in order to figure it out, or if you can experience it out of game without having to do anything yourself. You know, it's not like you have to complete a series of missions in order to lead up to some sort of penultimate and ultimate event in the game to get a cutscene or something like that. As such, the fact that I can go read or listen to the audio logs on a YouTube video that somebody else done, I have absolutely no desire, drive, or whatsoever to go find any of these lost mega ships or anything like that. I've read the transcripts or I've watched the videos on YouTube. Okay, I know what's gone on. I can go back to just doing the same old bounty hunting at res sites or missions or whatever else I've been doing. Engineer ships, build up materials to engineer the Type 10 Defender if and when it shows up. It's kind of like big whoopity-doo-dah. And in order to facilitate some sort of invasion narrative storyline that could be impactful, that actually could have player dynamics involved in it, would involve changes to the background simulation that would be non-trivial, I believe. Such as, one of those things, an impending Thargoid invasion of a star system. Well, then that triggers a series of mini community goals. One of them being evacuation of passengers or of colonists. And, you have to bring in your orcas and your belugas and stuff like that in order to evacuate people. Maybe because I just watched Dunkirk over the weekend at the OmniMax at the St. Louis Science Center in the 70mm format. And it's one of those things that I couldn't help but think about watching in that movie. Wouldn't it be cool to have a Dunkirk style, the Thargoids are invading the system, the superpowers, whomever, are requesting all civilian ships, basically the ships that you or I fly in this game, to mount a unlikely evacuation of a star system. We got to evacuate food, medical supplies, passengers, so you have a passenger hauling community goal. At the same time, you have a cargo hauling community goal, and bringing supplies to whatever star systems that are housing these refugees. And then you have a combat element to that. What would make it even more exciting is if they needed to be almost done together to where you needed wings of ships in order to run the gauntlet. You maybe need a beluga, but that beluga needs to be escorted by a pair of anacondas or cutters or something like that, or combat ships of some kind, to where they get into an instance with a Thargoid that's interdicted them, and you've got to defeat that Thargoid before the beluga can jump away, and at the same time you got to keep that ship alive. Basically escort missions. Wouldn't that be a lot of fun? But alas, I don't think we'll see anything like that. Well, anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Be sure to like and subscribe. Until then, I will see you next time.